Ladies and gentlemen, Odell Beckham Jr. is a member of the Rams now, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
As far as we know. So preface with that there are some sources that are saying pump the brakes, but the Rams official account has posted about it, like their app. And Adam Schefter posted Odell Beckham to the Rams. So this is to me, one of the few league-altering moves we've seen in the last few years. Like most of these moves, like when you sign a guy in waivers, you trade for a guy, they're not really doing much. The Rams are adding a guy that is probably a top 20 receiver in the league.
Unquestionably. We've always said, like I think you and I both said all season long, like if Baker and Odell were able to connect, it really could have helped Cleveland out a whole ton.
Absolutely.
But now you put him with Matt Stafford. And, I mean, would you say Stafford is better than Mayfield? I'd say based on experience, I'd say he's up there for sure.
I think unequivocally Stafford's better than Baker. I've never been the biggest Stafford fan, but he's better than Baker. He's on a different tier of operating than Baker Mayfield is. And that's what you have to look at here, that it's all upside for if you're Odell, because you have Super Bowl chances, immediately Super Bowl chances. You don't even have to be the number one option because that's Cooper Kupp. So if you wanted to be like, okay, go win a ring, make a little bit of money, and have like a solid season, Rams are your option. Great choice, Odell. Even in Green Bay, that's not Green Bay doesn't have the infrastructure that the Rams have right now with Stafford being a 100% sure thing with the whole Rodgers COVID situation. You have a wide receiver one in both, but there are just so many weapons in LA that Odell doesn't have to be the focal point, and he's can just kind of coattail ride his way to a ring potentially. So props to you, Odell, for making a good business decision.
We're kind of still figuring it out. Apparently the Rams might have jumped the gun on this a little bit, according to some recent Twitter info. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, there's no like okay. Their Twitter hasn't posted it yet. But I mean, geez.
So we are operating under the assumption. That Odell is a Ram. It has been finalized according to Adam Schefter. So we will wait and see. We will wait
Adam
and see.
Schefter hasn't
some questions.
He hasn't wavered on this at all. He's been tweeting like it's a done deal, and usually when that happens, it's pretty much confirmed.
All right, let's answer this. How does this affect Kupp? Jack, you go first as the resident Rams fan.
Maybe he gets slightly less targets. I don't expect Kupp to be affected too much by this. I think this is sort of like he's going to be wide receiver 4, I would imagine, because they like the way that Van Jefferson's been developing. Obviously, Kupp and Woods are 1 and 2. I wouldn't really expect too much to change on this, but I would expect maybe OBJ gets more targets than I would say, what's his name, Desean Jackson would, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I think I would say he's at least wide receiver 3. I think in a vacuum, he's probably better than Robert Woods, but Woods is like has been in the system his entire career, or not in the entire career, but he's been in the system in the McVay era. And this is, you need some stability there. So if he's like your wide receiver 3, kind of like how the Chiefs and the Seahawks would deploy Josh Gordon, that he's like a weapon, or even Antonio Brown on the Bucs last year, that you have these situations of he's your best player, but he's not fully ingrained into the offense. Kind of like Chris Matthews in Super Bowl 49, that he has this crazy game, but he's not on the field with 2 minutes to go. So, yeah, I would say I think Odell is probably the second best receiver in LA. I know Woods has had not the greatest of seasons. He was really good against Tennessee, though. A lot of his production did come in garbage.
Seattle, I'd say, was probably his best game.
Yeah. Okay. Regardless, if OBJ sees playing time, the fact that we can keep him off other teams, yeah, that's a good block move.
That's a W.
This is a when I'm asked, if you could add any player to the Ravens, who would you add? My answer until this year was always Patrick Mahomes, because you have a slight upgrade at quarterback, and you take Mahomes off the Chiefs, so you're probably going to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, now I would have a different answer. I don't know what that answer would be, but this is the same kind of thing that You don't want him going to Green Bay. You don't want him going to Seattle. You don't want him going to Arizona. You don't want him going to San Francisco. You don't want him going to New Orleans. So might as well take him yourself if you don't trust New England to keep him in the AFC, right? So I think that's a W there. Again, there's some other comments that we are working under the assumption that Odell is on the Rams, as reported by Adam Schefter.
Schefter is the one person that has not wavered on it. He just tweeted Odell Beckham Jr., Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. So, I mean,
can't confirm. He did tweet that.
Oh, Von Miller just went live with OBJ.
Oh, nice. Okay. Fun. Okay. Joined the Rams just to become a third option. I don't think of it that. I don't think he thinks of it that way. I think it's a competition thing for him but he doesn't have to be the number one option, and that can be certainly a draw there because Kupp, I think, is unequivocally a better receiver at this point in time. Mr. V, I agree. OBJ is wide receiver 2. Adam says, "Dang it, I wanted the Hawks to get him." Me too, man.
You know who else did is this guy.
Oh, poor Dan.
Poor Dan. I'm gonna have fun on his show tonight. I'm gonna give him.
Silas, he's not a Ram. Look on Twitter. Look at Josina Anderson and Kim Jones. Yes, but we're going with Schefter. If it happens to be true, we can adjust course and we can talk about him as a Packer. That's one thing we are both totally.
And then you guys will get to see me have a breakdown on.
Yeah, OBJ should have gone to the Seahawks. I agree. And actually, ironically enough, Seattle and LA run very similar offenses. A lot of 11 personnel, a lot of 3 wide receivers. That's 1 running back, 1 tight end. So 3 receivers. And either way, Odell would fit in really snugly as that wide receiver 3 from how the offense works. I'm not saying he would be the 3rd best wide receiver. I think he's better than Lockett. I think he's better than Woods. So he'd be a wide receiver 2, but he brings a different skill set in both of those offenses. And as a Ram, he's going to bring that take the ball deep, take the top off the defense mentality. And that's really scary because Matthew Stafford is a tremendous deep ball thrower. He has been for his entire career, rocket launcher of an arm. You have Woods and Kupp run like short and intermediate stuff, and you get Odell working in his bag deep. Like Cooper Kupp's been awesome deep, but Odell has been working deep, and that's scary. So Seahawks, he would have fit a very similar mold. You can argue who's the best deep threat in that Seattle room, but you don't have to argue it because he's on the Rams now.
This is what's on Twitter right now. So there you go.
Will Robert Woods be affected? Yes.
I think so.
You're going to have a depreciation of targets. Let me look up his targets so far this season. But I think
pretty much
you're going to have like a little bit of a dip. But he has 66. Woods has 66 targets in 9 games, so about 7 a game. That might tick down to about 5 to 6. Kupp, I believe, has over 11 targets a game. That might tick down to about 10. He has 101 targets in 9 games, so that's 11. So that might tick down to 9 to 10. So there's a couple. He's going to take a target here or there from Jefferson and Higbee, and you're going to find a way to cobble together six targets for Odell, 6 or 7 targets. So,
I think the Rams, this is kind of a problem that they used to have with Brandon Cooks. I think in 2018, 2019, that was a really interesting issue to see them have. Like, there were 3 really talented wide receivers that you just had to kind of juggle around a little bit more. I think that's now that Sean McVay has had that past experience being able to juggle 3 wide receivers around like that, he'll be able to do it, I would say, in a better way in the future. So we'll see what happens.
For sure. Do the Rams have the greatest super team on paper?
Unquestionably. On paper, unquestionably. On the field,
this is a fun one.
Yeah.
Because what's the weakest link of the Rams? Linebacker? We'd agree. Yes.
Yeah, linebacker. I would say so before we got Von Miller, but I guess depth wise.
Well, he's really an edge, not like an off ball.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, quarterback is a plus. Like, I would say at the bare minimum, Stafford's a top 12 or 13 quarterback. So you don't have any issues at the quarterback position. Darrell Henderson's been super productive this season. You already had this year's wide receiver 1 in Cooper Kupp. You're bringing in a guy that historically has been awesome. You have Woods. Van Jefferson's your number 4. Higbee's a good tight end. The offensive line is, unless they're playing the Titans, quite good. Andrew Whitworth has that old man
That's
strength working for
probably
him.
where I would put the weakness is at the offensive line, because center, I think Brian Allen had his first like ugly game last week, and it kind of he didn't actually practice today too. They had Coleman Shelton taking snaps for him, so I feel like that's something that center is something to watch there, because I've said before countless times they really fumbled the whole. They should have taken Creed Humphrey with that second round pick, and they didn't.
And isn't out for the season? Yes.
Well, is out for the season, so that's an L.
I will say that Brian Allen has been a rock solid run defender this year, and he's been a generally good enough pass blocker. He did get terrorized by Jeffrey Simmons and co. on Sunday night, but he's generally a solid center. He's not like a negative or anything. Then you go on to the defense. You're going to have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL with Donald and Donald,
Aaron
Floyd,
Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, A'Shawn Robinson.
Linebackers. Who cares about linebackers in the modern NFL? Let's be real here. Like,
I still miss Kenny Young, but
that's fair. But like, the Tennessee Titans are the best team in the AFC, and do they have a competent linebacker on the roster? I would say no. The Ravens are the second best record in the AFC. Do they have a competent linebacker on the roster? Josh Bynes is fine. You've probably never heard of him. Like, who are the best? Devondre Campbell is like the outlier here. And then Zaven Collins, but he's not playing that many snaps for Arizona. Like, there are very few like elite tier linebackers, and they don't generally play on the really good teams. See Bobby Wagner, see Eric Kendricks, see Fred Warner. Do you guys think OBJ will re-sign in the offseason?
I'm going to give a very Les Snead answer to this one. They are probably going to discuss it, I'd say. Maybe a short-term extension. I think he's... Right now, I see this as a rental. I see this as like he's going to stick around the rest of the year. Maybe he'll stay. Maybe he won't. I'm sure Les Snead will find a way to maybe make him stay for a year or two longer. So it's possible. Kim Jones just tweeted OBJ texted her with Rams. So it's I'd say it's pretty much done.
So now we're clear, right? Yes.
I'd say so. I mean, the team hasn't said anything just yet, but everyone's tweeting now.
So Kim Jones, thank you for helping us out there. I agree, Baskey, FLA. I had to keep the Braves hat on for this. If OBJ re-signs in the offseason, Robert Woods will demand a trade. I'm calling it.
No.
I think that's a good decision for Woods. Because at a certain point, if you're a wide receiver 2 and then you bring in another wide receiver 2, there are too many mouths to feed. And
that's fair.
We'll get to some more comments later, but it has to be the right business decision, especially if you win a ring this year, right? If the Rams win the Super Bowl and Robert Woods is a Super Bowl champion, he might be much more inclined to go somewhere else. He might be inclined to go to Detroit and be the wide receiver 1. He might be inclined to go to Jacksonville and be the wide receiver 1. Wherever it may be, you can go and then get a huge contract. You're a Super Bowl champion. You're set for life financially. You're set for life as a champion, and now you can go pad your stats. I'm not opposed to that if I'm Robert Woods. And honestly, if you're OBJ and you win a ring, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So I would say keep one.
That's fair.
Get rid of the other. And I know Les Snead has the F them picks mentality, but guess what? If you trade Odell or Woods,
you could get a solid return for Robert Woods.
Yeah, after this productive last half of the season, you get a second or a third. Well, guess what? You can use that and get 2022's version of Von Miller. Right. Well, I don't know who that would be, but maybe it's Chris Jones, or maybe it's Fletcher Cox, or maybe it's Darius Slay, whatever it may be. Whoever you want, you can go out and get that.
In case we're waiting for any official, there it is. There you go.
Wow. Jefferson will play like 20% of the snaps. He's not seeing the field anymore unless they go 4 wide. I agree with you in like a way, but at the same time, Van has been in the system. So things like 2-minute warning, things like 4-minute offense, I would trust Jefferson's going to be on the field, particularly early. So if you are a Van Jefferson owner in fantasy, one, I feel bad for you. But
I'm
two,
sorry.
you might want to hang on for him for a week or two if your trade deadline hasn't passed yet. And then trade him in a week or two when Odell gets acclimated. Because I think Jefferson's had at least 3 targets in every game. I know that. He's had at least 4 in every game since week 3. He's had games with 5, 6, 7 against the Lions. He's being targeted, and I think he's going to be targeted the next couple weeks. But keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it because Odell's not going to immediately come in and have like 10 targets. It's going to be a slow acclimation process.
Sean McVay is going to be smart with him. Sean McVay is not just going to like throw him in there and be like, all right, that's it. You're wide receiver 1. Just go crazy now. Like
and it's actually a 1-year deal.
I'm kind of taking it all in, to be honest with you right now. It's kind of crazy to think about. This is huge. This is huge. Like,
absolutely.
No matter how he plays. This is a game
changer. Confusing. Didn't Desean Jackson, just leave the Rams for not getting enough targets, and the Rams didn't have the money for him, so they go get a more expensive diva who cries about targets? Makes no sense.
Jackson, I think, left the Rams for money. I think he wasn't happy with this.
Here's my pushback there. Desean Jackson doesn't necessarily deserve those targets. So he's fighting for targets, but he's losing the fight. I think Odell can fight for targets and win targets, if that makes sense. Right? It would be like, say, if any team added Devontae Adams isn't just like competing for targets. He's going to be the number 1 targeted guy on that team in any meaningful capacity. DeAndre Hopkins, same sort of idea. Even Julio Jones, right? There's like 10 receivers in the league that if they are added to your team, they automatically become the number 1 go-to option on your team. Odell is not quite there, but he's in that second tier to me. Is it official? Yes. Yes. I was hoping my Raiders would sign him. We need a true number 1 receiver. No disrespect to Hunter Renfrow, but having OBJ line up with Renfrow and Desean Jackson would have been a dream. Throw in Darren Waller there, and I think you have a rock-solid receiving core. You get that. You kind of forced Derek Carr to throw deep balls, which the first 8 weeks of the season when he had Henry Ruggs, he was doing with incredible accuracy and incredible, not precision, incredible. It was good for the Raiders that Derek Carr was pushing the ball down the field, but now you're kind of sitting there and you have Renfrow, he's nice. He's a nice third down piece. You have Waller, who's nice, and you have Desean Jackson now, who's like fast, but you're kind of missing that like secondary counterpunch. You're missing that go-to guy, right? I think you're missing, if you're the Raiders, you're missing that guy that could win you football games. I'm not saying Waller is bad or Renfrow is bad or Desean Jackson's bad, but they have like certain circumstances that they can be like special, like 3rd and 6. Okay, that's Renfrow's down, right? Waller can move the chains. He's good in the red zone. He's solid enough in the red zone. Desean Jackson can be your deep threat, but Odell, I still think Odell is that game changer type, top 25 receiver, top 20 guy in the NFL that can go do these things and can be the number 1 target in an offense if need be. Just he didn't have chemistry with Baker, which was just strange because
it was weird. It was really weird.
Everything we've seen from Baker is great unless Odell is involved. 2018 is very good. 2020 without Odell, he was good. Early 2021 without Odell, he was good. 2019 with Odell sucked. 2020 with Odell sucked. 2021 with Odell sucked. Wild.
It just didn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. That's just how it is.
I'll let you answer this one, Jack.
Rams house. We all know the answer to that one.
As a Seahawks fan, I'm mad right now. Why would he choose LA over Seattle? Russell Wilson is way better than Stafford. I live in Detroit. We didn't like Stafford at all. I agree with you. I agree.
Friendly reminder
that he won this season.
Friendly reminder that Matthew Stafford is 1-0 against the Seahawks since joining the Rams. No, but okay. I agree with
Come
this.
on now.
I agree with this.
Russ
I agree
played half of that game.
I'm teasing. He did play half of this game. You're right.
Rams
Seahawks.
Like 93 PFF grade, something like
Rams
that.
Seahawks awesome. Is going to be so spicy.
Rams just got rid of Desean Jackson for the same reason. OBJ is better than Desean, as TJ
100%.
Points out. Rams versus Browns Super Bowl. Now we're using the S word here. How comfortable are you with using the S word with this team, Jack?
I'm going to use the NFC Championship.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. We'll keep
Okay.
it at that. I'm not.
Okay.
I want to see this team actually play games too,
Good point.
because we've seen it happen before where teams look incredible on paper and then on the field maybe it looks like a bit of a mess.
Mhm.
But the Rams have not played a game yet with Von Miller. Even the Rams have not played a game with OBJ yet. So on paper, 100%. But on the field, let's just wait until we actually see them wearing the uniforms and stuff.
Yeah. Imagine if it was Rams Browns and like the Browns go on this crazy run without Odell and the Rams go on this crazy run with Odell and then they play each other in the Super Bowl. That'd be pretty awkward. Must be pretty awkward for Jarvis Landry.
Yeah. Oh boy, Jarvis.
The truth says Rams just made a big mistake.
I disagree. It's not the big mistakes were when they committed like 5-year contracts to guys who proved to just not work long term for this team. They're not doing that with Odell.
Okay.
This is a very safe deal because it's just for the rest of the season. If it works, it's going to be fantastic. If it doesn't work, there's no major repercussions here. Right. So I'd say that this is it's pretty safe for the Rams here, and there's good chemistry apparently. Like he's already calling what's his name, Von Miller. I almost said DK Metcalf. I'm still reading the chat. Yeah, I'm hyped. Let's go.
Love to hear it. Okay. The truth says Bucks versus Bills in Super Bowl. Tom Brady wins 8th, retires and signs Rod. Imagine.
First of all, I don't even have pushback to the NFC team. I have pushback to the Bills.
Who the heck is going to win the AFC? Like, I don't trust Baltimore. I'm a freaking Ravens fan. I don't trust Buffalo. I don't trust Tennessee without Henry, right? I don't trust the Chargers. I don't trust the Chiefs. I don't trust the Browns. Honestly, I think every team in the AFC should be like plus 2,000 to win the AFC.
Is such a mess.
Every reasonable team. They should all have like the same odds, and then you just happen to pick one. So I don't know. Austin, hello, congratulations, sir.
I told you it was happening. I told Austin it was going on. It was going down.
This is true. Can confirm.
Ramsey.
Baskey, will OBJ gel with his third team? At the end of the day, I think winning kind of cures all. If you're winning games, it doesn't matter, right? So the Browns, Why did Odell have a feud with the Browns? They weren't winning. They were 4-4 when Odell got released. What about the Giants? Well, why did they want to trade him? Well, they weren't winning. So I think winning solves all problems, most problems in the NFL, unless you're Desean Jackson. Is it official?
Sports Center.
Yes.
I love this tweet.
Can we zoom in? Oh, is it turning the salary?
Yes.
But yes, Uzo Benj, it is official.
It is official.
Stage says DK owns Jalen Ramsey. That's a pretty bold claim. He did score this year. He did, but that was this year. Correct. Okay. I think this is the important question. How big is the Super Bowl window before it gets closed shut with a lack of picks?
I'd say 2 years. Maybe 3 if they get lucky. I want to see how long. I think Stafford's here for this year and next year. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were talking about how the Rams were a quarterback away from being able to win the Super Bowl with the team they had last year. This isn't exactly the same team they had last year, but it's still really strong.
It's the same like key pieces.
Exactly, the same key pieces.
You take out Akers because he's injured. You throw in Henderson. Okay.
Once Cam Akers comes back to this offense.
Oh, good point.
Jeez.
Good point. I think it's kind of a lateral move from Akers to Henderson because Henderson's been playing really well. Obviously, Akers has more like potential, but I don't know. If you put Akers in this offense right now, is it a million times better than with Henderson? I don't know.
I wouldn't say a million times better, but it's definitely better than Michelle.
Okay.
You could probably interchange Akers and Henderson, but yeah, I'd say about 2 years given the Super Bowl window. Like once more of the big players, like their contracts start to run out, that's when you can start getting into a little bit of trouble. So the Rams need to get a ring before then. For sure. Ryan says DK owns Ramsey ? You don't watch football. Then this guy, you must not have watched Rams v Seahawks. DK was cooking. That was one game.
Good point. It is
It
one
was
game.
1 game, 1 touchdown, and the Rams have had Ramsey destroy DK before, so it's totally fine.
Charlie Brown says this will be a disaster. Cup and Woods not having it. Poor Stafford. If there's anyone I don't feel bad for, it's Stafford, because
I
he's
don't
gonna
feel
have
bad for Stafford.
three
Oh, geez.
minimum wide receiver twos to throw to, and how many
Lions
other teams
fans
in the NFL have 3 guys that are top 30? Like,
Lions fans are so happy for this guy, but they're probably like so upset, like, oh, why couldn't this have happened with him
oh
here?
man. Like, honestly, how many teams have 3 wide receiver twos or better? Like, maybe a stretch, and you can say Buffalo, Beasley, and Sanders. I wouldn't have them in the same tier as Odell and Woods. You could maybe throw Cincinnati in there. Boyd hasn't had the best season. Tampa, it's Tampa and the Rams, right? You have 3 top 30 receivers. So, yeah. Drip says the Cardinals are better than LA. Times are changed. LA going to be a bust. How do you feel about that one, Chad?
It was a trap game last time out. I think next time's going to be a lot better. I'm looking forward to playing the Cardinals.
Is there like a resign button for all the other NFL teams? I think if there was, the Lions would have pressed it week 1, and the Jaguars
not with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell would have told them not to press it, but everybody else probably would have slammed it. I think the
Jags would have 1,000% pressed it after the whole Urban Meyer scandal in Cincinnati, or even after. If you're the Texans, what's stopping you from hitting the resign button as soon as Tyrod goes down week 2? It's like you think you're going to be competitive, and then you have to go to Davis Mills. So, I don't know.
I would have hit the button.
Daniel says it's Odell's attitude and personality. Anywhere he goes, it's a problem. Huge relief for the Browns. I don't disagree with you there. With the Browns, I think this is a net positive for the Browns. I think they're going to be a better football team, and they might even win the division. They're only 1.5 games behind the Ravens. But winning solves issues. You weren't hearing Odell yap in 2016 when the Giants made the playoffs. You only heard him yap, and you only used the boat picture when they lost in the playoffs. If they had gone to Green Bay and smacked the Packers, no one cares about the boat picture. No one. It wouldn't have been a diva thing. It wouldn't have been anything. But winning in Cleveland is difficult. Winning
is so difficult
that is impossible, as we saw. So, was that an Odell thing? We don't know. Is it the Rams are a winning organization at the moment?
Let me say this:
7-2.
The same thing happened with Jalen Ramsey when he was leaving Jacksonville, and you haven't seen anything happen with Ramsey since then.
Right. Yeah, no one was saying Ramsey was a diva, Ramsey was overrated in 2017 when the Jaguars were winning. You were saying that in 2018 and early in 2019 when the Jaguars sucked. So everything is relative in the NFL. Even like these good situations, right? Say, I'm going to use the Ravens as an example because I know the organization inside and out. John Harbaugh would not have a job if Lamar Jackson didn't go 6-1 in 2018. So winning solved that issue, right? But as soon as the Ravens weren't winning, notice the playoff game against the Chargers, people were booing Lamar, people were booing Harbaugh, people wanted Harbaugh fired, people wanted Joe Flacco to come back in. Winning cures that. Winning solves that. There are few situations in the NFL that winning does not solve. So if you're Odell and you're just piggybacking your way here, and the Rams can go 15-2 without you, they can go 14-3 and go to the NFC title game without you, and you're just here to pick up that extra 1% and be a tiny bit better than Van Jefferson or a tiny bit better than Robert Woods or a tiny bit better than Desean Jackson, who you're essentially replacing. That's a huge win for everyone involved, and no one's going to care. No one's going to say, oh, yeah, he's a diva, or, oh, yeah, no. If they go 14-3 and win the Super Bowl, the diva Odell is perhaps gone.
Probably gone. Again, yeah. Ramsey, we saw it happen to him. Like, I haven't seen Diva Ramsey since 2019 when that stuff was happening.
Or even
with
like Von Miller. Von Miller's had some off-the-field issues the last couple off seasons, but does it really matter? No, because he's a Super Bowl champion and he won the Super Bowl MVP and he has 100 sacks and he has all these milestones of winning and he's been to 2 Super Bowls, might go to a 3rd this year. So you don't care about the off-the-field stuff. You don't care that he might not be the greatest locker room presence ever. So I think he is, but I'm just saying he has had some off the field stuff in the last few years.
Yeah.
Man, tell me about it. I live in Detroit. We get to see Stafford do good, but it couldn't do good with Calvin Johnson. Stafford was like good with Calvin.
I thought he was good with Calvin Johnson.
He made just one Pro Bowl, multiple. Let's throw Zach in.
Zach's gonna.
How's it going, buddy?
He is
oh man, he is the throwback.
It is the throwback. I like Odell. I like him a lot. I'm not so sure if he is going to exist in LA more than a figure, a celebrity, a guy who's going to get people in the building, this guy's going to sell jerseys. Because you're interrupting by bringing him in, you're interrupting Stafford's chemistry with Cooper Kupp, with Van Jefferson, with Robert Woods. I'm not so sure he's wide receiver 3. He might be wide receiver 4.
I mentioned this too because I thought that Van Jefferson, he developed a lot quicker than I think the Rams expected him to. Like that was the expectation was that a lot of people were saying, at least before the season, the expectation was that Desean Jackson was going to be wide receiver 3. Van Jefferson would be behind him. But Jefferson developed a lot quicker than I think the Rams were anticipating. So he became a bit of a bigger part of their offense. I don't know where he fits in. Again, we have yet to see him even play a game, but it feels to me like it'll take away a little more from him than the Rams may want, but I don't think it's going to be like a killer issue for him.
I also do wonder how much of that Odell magic from New York is left, because I say this as a Giants fan. I remember the last few years of Odell as, the IVs that would have him miss the first drive of the second half. I remember, all the injuries, all of the drama, Lil Wayne in the locker room after the game. I'm not so sure with his injuries and kind of what he's been through the last couple of years, how much of that explosive Odell Beckham that we all know and love from 2014, 2015, how much of that is still left? Because let me tell you one thing. If he can figure that aspect of his game back, if he can find that again, and now he's in LA.
No head coach better, I'd say.
There's no head coach better than Sean McVay to figure him out. No quarterback better than Matthew Stafford. And now you have one of the biggest celebrities in football in the city of Angels, where if he makes it big, oh boy. But you just wonder how much of that explosiveness, how much of that potential, that quick step that he has where he can take a 10-yard slant, 75 yards to the end zone.
We don't talk about that.
How much of that's still left?
So I think a lot of it's left. I don't think he's the same athlete he was in 14-15, but I think he's about 95%.
This is kind of how we feel about Von Miller too. He's not the same as he used to be, but he's still got a lot left.
Yeah, even if you go back to our preseason show, like the one that we recorded Thursday of the Cowboys-Bucks game, I was talking with Frankie, and I said, Odell is still mostly the same Odell. He's not a top 5 guy. He's not a top 10 guy. I'm not trying to argue that, but he is a guy that is a top 20 to 25 receiver. And in this NFL, there's like 30 receivers that are good enough to be in the top 10 in any other year besides 2021. And I think Odell can still do that. And Odell can still get open deep and still get open over the middle of the field and still do these things down the field that is different from what Kupp does and different from what Woods does. Woods and Kupp are like really good at everything on the field. They don't have any flaws. Like Robert Woods and might be the most well-rounded receiver in the NFL from a like having no flaws aspect. Kupp is in the same ballpark. Odell is not that. He has had his issues with drops throughout his career. He has had some inconsistencies, but what he does have is that top end game breaking ability. And even this year, he hasn't been great with Cleveland. He has a 92.5 grade on deep balls and 93.1 grade on intermediate throws.
This year?
He is getting open. He is doing Odell things. I don't want to look at the 2014 because it's probably going to be a 99, but he's still doing awesome things. In 2014, he had I was right. He had a 99.9 receiving grade in intermediate, but beside the point, he's still an elite guy down the field. Beyond 10 yards, he's going to be one of the top 20 receivers in the NFL, top 15 receivers in the NFL. And you put that with Kupp and you put that with Woods. And I agree that he doesn't need to be the focal point, and that's one nice reason for going to LA. But I do think the Rams are going to work him in, and he's going to be that kind of I talked about this on a baseball podcast, how Clayton Kershaw needs to come back, but be kind of like the sixth man. If Odell can be the sixth man of your receiving core, it's going to be unreal. Like he
it makes sense to me. I kind of like assumed that like if he's going, he kind of already understood the situation he was getting into before he signed. Again, this was completely his choice. So he probably had to have some kind of understanding. He's not going to be the big number one guy if he does sign here. So
just to answer this, yes, it's official.
But I do wonder, does he have the ability to put his ego aside? Does he have the ability to say, okay, I'm not going to be the focal point just because I'm in LA and I'm playing for a Super Bowl contender?
Good point.
It is not going to be the Odell Beckham show at SoFi Stadium every other week. Does he have the ability to put that aside and just put his head down and win?
I think that's fair. I think that's
very
absolutely fair. I wonder if being in a city like Los Angeles helps especially if you're winning. So if you're Odell and you can go hang out with LeBron after the game, you might only have 4 or 5 catches, but you won. Your team's the best in the NFC.
Jalen Ramsey is literally going to Lakers games after Rams wins.
And you get to hang out with LeBron or whoever the heck celebrity you want to hang out with.
Mookie Betts was at the Lakers game last night.
I don't know who Odell's best friend in LA it would be, but let's just say he's in the big market. Like TJ says, big market, watch him thrive. If he has 1 or 2 great games, Odell stock is ticking up. 13 jerseys are selling out. And I think if there's any, like I said,
I'd imagine he keeps 13. Oh boy. Does John Wolford have to change his number again?
Oh boy. Is he allowed to?
I don't know.
This was the issue. I think the
Odell might not be wearing 13. Odell might not be wearing 13.
I think Odell is
Mark
going to have to wear whatever they want him to wear. But you do make a good point, because when Odell was in New York City as a sports town in 2014, 2015 did not have the level of prestige it does in terms of superstars that it does now. Kevin Durant and James Harden were not in New York. Nobody knew who the heck Aaron Judge was. Nobody knew who the heck Giancarlo Stanton was. The only good team in New York in 2014, 2015 were the Rangers, and no one cares about hockey, at least in the football world. Heck, the Knicks are good now. The Knicks were terrible when Odell was in New York. Now being at Madison Square Garden, that's a place to be seen again. It wasn't when Odell was on the New York Giants, and now you're in LA. And like you said, everywhere you go in Los Angeles is a place to be seen. You want to go to the Staples Center, see a game? Yeah, people are going to notice you. You want to walk around Rodeo Drive? Yeah, people are going to notice you. I've only been to LA twice, and even I get that from a standpoint of, you want to be a celebrity? Go to Los Angeles, but you better be prepared to win, because LA fans
do not give a crap if you lose.
Right.
If you come in and you just lay an egg, they will not bat an eye. And I think this is a good time to give a big shout out to like the Rams management too, for understanding that when you come to a big market like this, you need to be able to win right away. And really, since year 2, I would say. Year 1, because they brought in Sean McVay and nobody knew really who he was at the time, and now everybody knows his name.
Right.
Cooper Kupp, nobody knew who he was. Everybody knows his name. Who else? We saw all the huge moves that they made in 2018. Went to the Super Bowl. 2019, they brought in Jalen Ramsey. They brought in 2020
away Marcus Peters.
Well, yeah, the Marcus Peters nonsense.
Thank you.
You're welcome for that. And then now you see them in 2021. They bring in Von Miller. They bring in OBJ. Like, this is a team that understands how to make it in this new market that they've been in. What is this, year 6 in LA?
They also understand when to cut guys loose. For example, someone like a Todd Gurley. They're a really smart, well-run team. And, I'm saying this in the middle of Missouri, and if people outside of my apartment hear me, I might be wanted for crimes against humanity to the people of Missouri. I think Stan Kroenke has done a wonderful job running the Rams since he's gotten out to LA. Now I have
we'll say
St. Louisans who probably want me dead for saying that.
We'll say he's done a good job with the Rams and about nothing else, because
Yeah.
I have very mixed opinions on Mr. Kroenke, but it's
not a great person, Stan Kroenke.
No,
I know.
There's a reason he got Ram Dung sent to him in the mail a couple times.
Also, University of Missouri graduate Stan Kroenke. I believe he is the wealthiest person ever graduate from my school. So, yay!
Yay? Question mark.
Yay!
I have two funny things. First of all, the first notification I got for my Yahoo Fantasy was that Odell is healthy. So apparently going to a new city makes him healthy. He had been questionable. That's hilarious.
Oh, I'm picking it up.
And two, the Rams, I believe, are open in the number 3 jersey and the number 1 jersey with Desean Jackson gone.
This is true. Desean Jackson leaves.
Does he wear
one open.
He wore 3 in college at LSU.
Oh,
13 is taken by Wolford.
He's going to wear 3.
I'm still looking for the rule. I don't know the rule.
He should be able to. Yeah, he should be able to wear 3. Woods is
I know.
2.
I know he's able to now with the new rule. I'm looking for the change rule though, just to see like if they'll actually let. Because I know there were a lot of number changes that they talked about throughout. Like Cam Akers almost switched to 3, and then John Wolford went to 9, but then Matt Stafford came in and he took 9. So John Wolford went to 13. And I don't know. Maybe if OBJ re-signs for a year, Wolford will change it again, and then he gets 13. So,
and Odell Beckham is coming into a situation where the Rams have a primetime game on Monday night, and then the week after they're playing the national doubleheader against Green Bay. So he's going to get all the exposure he wants.
Oh yeah, they get a bye week in between too, so they have time to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, the best part of this whole thing is at Lambeau. Rams, Packers, November 28th. We're talking game of the year potential.
That's
so much fun.
Do I dare say that one is near the magnitude of Rams Chiefs?
Well, the way that Rams Chiefs game came about with
I don't know if it's quite there because like
that one just.
Well, that one came about because it was supposed to be in Mexico, and then they ended up moving it to LA because there was smog or something like that. And
when Rams,
I don't think the field was ready.
The field was terrible.
Yeah, I forget what it was.
I'll say this: when Rams Chiefs was coming, we felt the excitement for it by week 7, pretty much.
Yeah, I thought that game was going to be a matchup of undefeated teams. Both of them ended up having one loss beforehand, but point taken. That game lived up to everything and more. You had defensive touchdowns. You had Mahomes had 6 passing touchdowns, something stupid like that. What a wild game! And we have a 4th member. We're going quad box. Frankie, how's it going?
How about this?
This is the first time I've been on a live. I feel like in months. Where the hell have I been? How you guys doing?
It's a good question. The world's been.
Weren't you on one like 3
about
weeks ago, like the last Jets show, right?
Yeah, but I called in. I wasn't.
Good point.
Well, you know what happens.
I miss this, man. I miss this.
The world stops turning. So,
yeah. Wow.
There you go.
You know what? What do you guys? I haven't been listening, but the Rams, I think, are making a bit of a big move here, and I don't know if it's going to work out for them. This is a big move from a lot of perspectives, though. Not only in terms of changing your offense. You're going through Cooper Kupp for the first half of the season. Things are working beautifully using Darrell Henderson. Now you're going to have to get Odell the ball, less looks for Kupp, and that's on the field. Now in the locker room, him and Jalen Ramsey doing their little thing. I don't know. I think this is they might be trying to bite more than they can chew here. So
I think from a target perspective, it should be okay. So Desean Jackson is leaving. That's 2 extra targets a game. You have the variety of like 5th and 6th receivers, the Bennett Skrowinex, the Johnny Munz. He's a tight end, but same point.
He's hurt for the year.
Okay. Same idea. So you have a lot of targets from auxiliary players that are going to go to Odell. I think you're going to tone down Michelle's usage. He has 10 targets in 9 games. You're going to tone down Henderson's usage in the passing game. He has about 3.5 targets a game. So Odell's going to have his targets. And then maybe you knock Kupp from 11 a game, like I said, to 9 or 10. You knock Woods from 7 a game to 6 a game. Okay. You have found your 6 to 7 targets you want for Odell. And you can intersperse that wherever you want in the offense. But I think what Jack and Zach have said is he's going to come in and be the wide receiver 4. What I've said is he's going to come in and he's going to be like your Carmelo Anthony, 6th man, like spot starter for a baseball term, like a power play guy, if you want to use a hockey term. He's going to come in and be like that game changer. He doesn't have to be the number 1 receiver every single snap, but on the handful of plays that, yeah, Odell, time to get in your bag, time for you to torch a guy deep. Odell can do that.
Does Odell want to do that?
Okay, that's a valid question. I can't answer that for Odell, but I do know that winning solves issues, and it's a lot easier to take a smaller role for a team that could go 14-3, 15-2, and win the Super Bowl than it is to say, oh, well, Jarvis Landry had more targets than me, but the Browns got blasted by someone. That's an issue. Or when he was in New York, oh, well, we went 4-12. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Right. But if you're 14-3 with the Rams and you're getting 7 targets a game, I think that's a much better situation than being in Cleveland, getting 9 targets a game on a team that could go 7-10. Although they're going to be a lot better.
All right, question. We'll ask this around. We'll go around the horn here.
Okay.
Does Odell to the Rams, you could pick A, B, C, or D. Does Odell to the Rams, A, significantly increase their chances of going to the Super Bowl? B, slightly increase? C, have no effect? Or D, hurt their Super Bowl chances? A, significantly. B, slightly. C, 0, no effect, basically. And then D, hurt their chances. What would you pick there?
I'd roll with B. I think it gives
I'd roll with B.
He gives them another like ace up their sleeve that other teams aren't going to have. They have another counter punch, right? They can have like a superstar 11 personnel with Henderson, who's been a top 10 back this year, Cooper Kupp, who's been the best wide receiver in football this year, Robert Woods, who's consistently top 25, top 30 guy, Odell, who has been a top 5 guy at certain points, and then Tyler Higbee, who's a solid tight end. And then you throw in Matt Stafford, who could win the MVP this year. You throw in a sturdy offensive line. That is an awesome offense. And even if you don't exploit that every single snap of every single game, that's a trump card that only Tampa can match. And Tampa, I would take Darrell Henderson over Fournette.
I'm going to go with B. And the reason I say B, I agree with everything you said except one thing. The next big win in January that Matthew Stafford is going to have will be his first. And we saw last week in primetime against a mediocre Titans secondary, he had a really, really, really bad game. So I'm still not 100% sold on Matt Stafford. I can't believe I'm saying this, but for whatever reason, you asked me a couple days ago what my Super Bowl prediction was. I said the Buccaneers. I am sticking with the Buccaneers right now.
Do you know the thing with Matt Stafford? I was speaking. Oh, sorry, Jack. Go. Go.
I was going to mention Stafford too. I think what we need to realize still, I think some Rams fans even still haven't 100% realized is that Matthew Stafford is not God. He's going to be an upgrade over Jared Goff, but he's not going to be like a Mahomes in 2018 or a Aaron Rodgers last year. He's not going to be like on that same level, but he's got enough to where he's an upgrade over Goff. And he can really start to unlock the rest of the Rams offense. The supporting cast in Detroit was terrible. You bring him to LA, you got Kupp, you got Woods, you got Van Jefferson. Now you have OBJ. I think it does nothing but help Matthew Stafford. I don't think it's like a huge explosion of offense. That's why I'm going B with your question. But yeah, I think that's the supporting cast is definitely a lot better now around Matt Stafford. And it will help him. That does not mean he is immune from having bad games. He's going to put up stinkers. He put up a stinker against Arizona. He put up a stinker against the Titans. Both of those teams are 15-3 combined.
And one of their losses is to the other one.
I think what we fail to realize, my answer to that question is C. I think it has no effect. I don't think it's going to help the Rams get to the Super Bowl. I don't think it'll hurt them. Where I think it'll hurt is so it'll happen in twofold. So there'll be elements of the game that it will help their offense on the field. Then there's elements with Odell that will hurt them. I think they'll offset and it'll virtually be no effect. But I think the question we have to ask ourselves here is, has Odell been able to add to a locker room and make it a winning culture? Does he add to that culture? I mean, I think a lot of times we don't really talk much about that in sports, but there's some guys that really do a good job of just adding value to your team. And whether it's their leadership attributes or what they are interacting to the coaches in terms of game plans moving forward. But I think with Odell, I just think he's not going to add what the Rams need. They have one of the best passing offenses in football. What else are you looking for? What else do the Rams, if I just don't see it.
Okay.
I don't see the fit. I see the player. I don't see the fit. The fit doesn't make sense to me.
Big rebuttal I have there is, I think a lot of us were saying about a year ago, how the heck can you win with Antonio Brown in your locker room? Couldn't do it in Pittsburgh. Couldn't do it in Vegas or in Oakland. He couldn't do it in New England. He goes to Tampa Bay. They figured him out. Catches a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and he's got a Lombardi. So if you can figure AB out, who was considerably worse off the field in Pittsburgh than Odell Beckham ever was, and I'm not saying Odell is this easy locker room guy. I'm a Giants fan. I know firsthand what he's put the locker room through. I think you can win with Odell Beckham if he is in the right environment.
So I'm going to use.
Holy crap! Are you wearing an Odell jersey?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Are you kidding me? They're selling those on eBay, by the way. Now they're going for twice the value, kid. You got like 185 for that one. I'll sell it for you. We'll split it. 90-90?
Yeah, well,
95. I'll take 95.
I got this thing from like Modell's in Jersey. I don't even think Modell's is still in business anymore.
No. They happen to stay open, though. You'll find a Modell's here and there selling socks for $2.
I can't wait to go to the Nike
wearing
clearance store and find an OBJ Browns jersey.
Oof. So I'll take this in a different direction. I think of this kind of in a retro bowl, if you guys have played that not every player ends up mattering as much as you think to like team chemistry. So in the last 2 weeks, the Rams have gone out and gotten Von Miller, who is a franchise cornerstone in Denver, perhaps their greatest ever player, perhaps one of the greatest leaders on the defensive end ever. You're bringing that in. Yes, you're bringing in a diva, a cancer, whatever you want to call Odell. In a lot of ways, those are going to cancel out. In a lot of ways, I think bringing in a positive influence like Vaughn, I think is going to overshadow what Odell, the negativity around Odell. And I think, one, again, winning solves issues. So negativity isn't going to fester if you're winning games, right? If the Rams beat the Niners 45-0, no one's going to care about what Odell said on Instagram. Right. No one's going to care about what Odell's dad posted on Twitter in that video. And Odell's still getting open, by the way. So that is, to me, the thing here, that the Rams have a lot of high leadership guys. The Browns didn't. The Giants had Eli, but how much do you respect Eli? You have the 2 rings, but he's not a great quarterback, and you grapple with that. But in LA, you have an established head coach in Sean McVay. You have established defensive stars, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. You're bringing in Von Miller, who is one of the best leaders in the last 20 years. Offensively,
Von Miller was recruiting him from day one.
Von Miller is a known leader. Von Miller is a guy that is a general of a locker room. He's a guy that you can always look to. He's a proven winner. And at the end of the day, those are the guys who, if I am looking at who is going to step up in a time of need, I look at the guys who have the rings, have the Lombardis.
Yeah, and this is
but sometimes these guys, you have to be a little bit careful with some of these guys. Sometimes, like Von Miller. Von Miller was on a team that Peyton Manning was a general of. I mean, that team was set to get to the Super Bowl from basically the first half of that season when they were exploding with that offense. So I wouldn't necessarily look at just because a guy was a D-end on a team that won a Super Bowl and assume that, he knows exactly what it takes to build a winning locker room. When Peyton was the guy on that team. Granted, when they won, he had a pretty bad season. That was like his
What
downfall
about the
season.
Osweiler days? They spent half the year with Osweiler there, and you have that negativity. And Peyton sucked for the first half of that season. Like, I know they had a huge winning record. I think they went 7-2. He sucked. He was trash.
Peyton
He had one
Manning
of the
in
worst games.
2015 was
Well, it
the
was a
worst
catastrophe.
quarterback to win a Super Bowl since Trent Dilfer.
Like, he's the worst. Go by
Yeah,
QBRs
but
and the best
there's a
stats
lot of
aware.
things. There's a lot of things that Peyton was doing, I'm sure, even if it's just audibling to a run in the right situation that
Omaha.
helps your team out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Omaha.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
you
fair, but
can't, you can't take that away from the value of at that position.
I think, and you can even compare this like what Zach did with AB going to Tampa. Tom Brady went into an organization that was quite literally the worst in the NFL. They had the one Super Bowl, but other than that, they were the worst winning percentage, no culture, retread head coach, stat padding wide receivers. What are you going to get defensively? You have no idea what you're getting. And then Tom Brady comes in, they win a Super Bowl. Like Tom Brady comes in, galvanizes the group. That is, yes, Brady's different from Vaughn. I get that, and Brady has more rings and more whatever it may be, and he's a quarterback as opposed to an edge. But bringing that guy in, bringing a leader in, cannot be overstated. You can bring in guys like an Odell or an AB or trouble causers when you have leadership figures in the locker room, whether it's a coach like McVay can be, or quarterback, guys in that locker room that other people respect.
The Rams have done this before too. Like Marcus Peters wasn't exactly like he wasn't really involved in any of that nonsense while he was on the Rams. Like he came over and I was like, I hope the Rams are prepared for his like
shenanigans.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. And he didn't really have
anything in Baltimore. And
he hasn't really done anything in LA. He hasn't really done anything in Baltimore. As long as you have the right guys.
By the way, do you guys know about the and we got to answer Noah's question here. Shout outs to everyone in the chat, the U Stadium fam.
Yeah, a couple questions.
Strong, baby, strong. But do you guys know about the Jerry Rice curse that no one talks about? The Jerry Rice curse is this. If you're a top wide receiver, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Odell Beckham, Chris Carter, Larry Fitzgerald, you're not going to – Calvin Johnson, you ain't going to win a Super Bowl because all those guys I just named have 0 Super Bowl rings. So the wide receiver position does not win you Super Bowls. So I think that teams should reconsider when they start signing these big free agents because the Jerry Rice curse is alive and very real. So the only guy that broke that curse is my man Marvin Harrison, the debt collector we call him, collecting rents down in Beemore, the Godfather down there. Marvin Harrison. No, seriously though, it's actually pretty interesting. If you look at top wide receivers in NFL history, they have the 0 Super. Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitz. I mean,
I'm going to have some pushback here. I'm going to have some pushback here.
Pushback. I'm just giving a stat.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not giving an opinion. It's a stat.
Jack, I have some stats for you. Jack, who are the top 2 receivers on the 99 Rams?
Isaac Bruce and Torrey Hall.
Torrey Hall. I don't know why I forgot
Hall
their
of
names.
Famers should be in the Hall of Fame.
Those guys aren't in that category. I just named those splash
Hall of Fame wide receiver. Both of them were Hall of Fame caliber.
Both of them are Hall of Fame worthy wide receivers.
In the Hall of Fame. Torrey Holt, I've been slamming the table for the last 5
years.
Get
Torrey Holt in the Hall of Fame.
So
I was slamming the table for Isaac Bruce.
Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Why did they win? They were like top 10 receivers.
I mean, Antonio Brown was not wide receiver 1 in Tampa, but at one point,
by targets he was. By targets he was. He was wide receiver 1 in Tampa.
And to be fair, Antonio Brown, I think, is one of the only guys I can think of that at one point was considered to be the best wide receiver in the league that won a ring. Maybe Tyreek Hill. Maybe you could make a case for him. But other than that,
that's another one. What about
the thing is though? Those wide receivers are not commanding the ball. AB was in Pittsburgh, obviously, to an extent. But even then, I mean, they allowed Juju to come in his second season have 1,400 yards. Guys like Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Odell Beckham, the diva wide receiver curse, the Jerry Rice curse that I'm talking about, it's a thing because you're commanding so much of the QB's attention. They stop going through their reads properly and just forcing the ball to this one receiver. As much of a diva as AB was later on, I feel like in Pittsburgh, he did a pretty good job of just allowing Ben to do his thing. But they didn't AB didn't win a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh, I don't think.
No.
They won. Yeah.
did go to the Super Bowl his first year in
A
2010.
lot of the problems
as a special
with
teamer, yeah.
so much
he
of that
was-
Pittsburgh locker room
700 yards.
was Ben's fault, but we don't talk about that.
Saying that
I agree with
that
that.
AB went to the Super Bowl in 2010 is like saying that Jimmy Garoppolo has 6 rings.
I disagree
5 rings or something.
there because
Yeah, I
he
think it's
was
like 3,
like a
but-
pro-
No, he
was
doesn't
a
have
pro-
that many.
he
produced
was doing
on that team.
he had a huge catch in the NFC title game or AFC title game against your Jets.
Yeah, but
When it
receiving wise,
mattered,
like
AB did something. Like
that was
the
Mike Wallace's
Steelers.
team receiving wise.
Yes, Ravens legend Mike Wallace, but like I don't know. I think I get what you're saying with the Jerry Rice curse, but I also think the best wide receiver of our generation, if it AB 1 and Julio 1B, Julio was not at fault. Cannot be. blamed
Julio
in
is
the
another example. I didn't
slightest.
think of him.
He cannot be blamed in the slightest for the Falcons
Julio's
blowing
not a
that
diva.
Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's the difference. Julio is not a diva. Julio is very much people's head down.
I think Julio is more of a diva than I think we let on because he's just kind of playing in Atlanta as opposed to New York or LA. And his hobbies were like fishing, right? Rather than talking to people. I think Julio has a lot of those diva mentalities. And remember the clip he had with Shannon Sharp on Undisputed.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. So I don't know if Julio knew he was live on air, but that was a pretty public feud with Atlanta and Matt Ryan in particular. That I get what you're saying with the Jerry Rice curse. I understand, but I think that's more circumstantial evidence because you need more than just a wide receiver 1 to win a Super Bowl. You need more. Like it'd be saying, oh, well, you always need a star quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Okay, Joe Flacco. Okay, Nick Foles, right? Or you always need, Trent Dilfer. You always like. There's no one way to win a title. There's no one way to eat an elephant, right? Like the 2020 Bucks are a fundamentally different organization than the 2019 Chiefs or the Dynasty Patriots, the 2017 Eagles. All these teams do very different things. The Chiefs could win on a kind of opportunistic defense, superstar quarterback. The Eagles dominated in the trench. They had 4 dudes that should have been all pros on the offensive line, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham on the defensive line. It just played a mean style and won in the trenches. They won every single game they played in the trenches. It really didn't matter who was playing quarterback because they were going to win in the trenches and they were going to make things happen. And they were on the cutting edge.
But Splash, really quick. My whole thing is this. What are the Rams trying to do with Odell Beckham that is going to do what exactly to increase their value as a team? Their offense is amazing. Cooper Kupp's having the best first half of football from any wide receiver we've ever seen.
Yes.
Robert Woods is a great second or 1B wide receiver right now.
Yes.
Stafford's playing amazing outside of the Titans game. What's the point of Odell? What do you want to throw for? You want Stafford to throw for 6,500 yards? Is that like?
I think it's also kind of like
Von Miller was great. Von Miller was an amazing pickup.
I'm not going to call OBJ a depth player, but the Rams did need more wide receivers because they had who was their
Van
fourth
Jefferson
string
played
after
badly last game.
Tutu Atwell went down. Jacob Harris went down. Ben Skowronek, I think, is their next guy up, and no one knows who the hell that is.
So you're gonna bring Odell in to fill that need, that 4th wide receiver need. Good luck with that.
His ego is capable of
I'm not saying that he's gonna be like wide receiver 4. I'm just saying the Rams needed another wide receiver. They went and got one. So
I think what you're looking at is you're adding another trick to your playbook. You're adding another package, essentially.
Yes.
Right? We're not saying that he is the packer. We're not saying he's going to be, let's say, shotgun formation. He's not going to be your shotgun formation. He's going to be your wildcat formation. He's going to be your trump card. He's going to be we're just going to let Odell do his thing for a quarter or a half, right? This is exactly what the Tampa did with AB. You had a really good offense before AB comes, and then AB adds a little nuance, adds a third guy the defense has to care about. This is why I say the Chiefs are 15th in scoring on offense. They have the best tight end in the league, the best wide receiver in the league.
You know where Odell should have went? The team you just said. Odell should have went to the Chiefs. Chiefs would have been a perfect place for him. You have a quarterback that can put the ball basically anywhere you want on the field. They need a little spark on that team. They're a little bit flat right now. Odell to the Chiefs, I thought, made the most sense, even more than Green Bay, and obviously more than
I would have gone to
LA.
New England or Green Bay.
Some people are saying
New
Seattle.
England. Seattle would have been bad for
I
him, I think. That
I
team
get
has
Mac
too
Jones
much
is limited.
going on.
You're running the same offense, Seattle and LA.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
gonna
Odell's good underneath. I mean, for the most part. So Mac Jones likes to
And
throw
he's
his
good
little
over the
5 to
top,
7
too.
yard.
And like if you're,
I love
look,
looking at this tweet that says, like, barring any last minute change, we hear that OBJ is going to the Patriots.
Like I think Odell still brings
Who
that
tweeted
route
at the
running.
Patriots?
NFL rumors, some random account, but they were wrong, clearly.
Yeah, I think Odell can still work as a route runner. So even if you don't have like an uber talent at quarterback like a Stafford, like a Mahomes, like a Rodgers, like Mac Jones could have taken advantage of that, I think, because he would get open more often than Jacoby Myers. He would get open more often than Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, our friend Hunter Henry. Like I think that's regardless if are you taking full advantage of Odell? No, but how many guys can, right? So you can still run that. He can still do like the route tree and he can still get open everywhere. It's just he's probably
Let's
gonna do
answer
that
this
more
from
often
Noah right
than
here.
not.
So we have Noah Irabino, the GOAT, the U Stadium Tech GOAT. We love you, brother. He asked us on U Stadium Live, give us the fantasy outlook for Rams wide receivers now. I think Kupp takes a little bit of a dip, just slightly, not much,
He
but a
should
little
still
bit.
be a
I
wide
think,
receiver one. Like a top
absolutely,
10
no,
to
for
12
sure.
wide receiver.
I think Robert Woods takes a big hit here. I think
Mhm.
my man Robert Woods. I think him and Stafford really didn't show that they have much chemistry at this point, but they really didn't necessarily need to because Stafford was doing his thing with Kupp, where there's only so many completions you're going to have in a game. So Woods did have a good game against Tennessee, believe it or not. He had 7 catches for 98 yards. But yeah, I think Woods is going to be the one that might take a little bit of a back seat there to
I think
to
we
Odell.
kind of agree.
Again, yeah, because Odell's not going to come in again. In my opinion, he's not going to come in and want to be wide receiver 3. He's going to come in and want to be wide receiver 2 and maybe wide receiver 1B. Yeah, if I could be wrong, maybe Odell's a changed man like a la Antonio Brown. The difference between Odell and Antonio Brown is just age and prime and circumstance. It's different. AB was going through a lot, was trying to just make his way back into the league. Odell was in the league. Odell was still established. And honestly, not to go on a tangent, but that video his father posted showing how open he was at times was actually quite alarming and actually showed the value that Odell still has in the game because he had some plays where he was clearly wide open that Baker wasn't getting the ball with that slow release Baker has. Stafford, he'll get you the ball in any way,
Stafford's release is unreal.
Possible.
Have you seen the sidearm he can throw? That's ridiculous.
So I want you guys to take a guess real quick at where Robert Woods currently ranks in fantasy points.
12th out of receivers.
That would be correct. Yeah. In standard scoring, he's 12th in total.
Damn, dude, I'm good. Splash. I'm going to stump the Splash one day, kid.
How about that?
Damn, lucky number 12.
Yeah. Jakeem Grant has negative fantasy points per game. Good job, buddy. Can we sort, please? So Kupp leads everyone by a mile. We knew that. He leads by 4.5 points per game. Marquise Brown, my guy, is in 6th. Antonio Brown is 5th. That's cool. But
Marquise Brown looks good this year.
Yeah, he's been balling. Okay, Robert Woods is averaging more fantasy points than DJ Moore right now.
Who's second? Jamar Chase?
It's Kupp, Debo, Hill, Chase,
Debo.
AB, Marquise, Adams, DK, Evans.
Wait,
Godwin,
did you just say AB?
Yes, AB.
Yeah.
He's averaging 16. He's played 5 games. He
average
has
per
81
game.
points.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So Godwin, Mike Williams, Thielen, Deontay, Jefferson, Lamb, Pittman, Hopkins, Terry, Cooper. There's Woods. So 12.7 half-point PPR points per game. I think that's going to take a dip. I think Kupp can still maybe lead, but take a couple of those points off here or there. Instead of 22 a game, maybe 18 a game, maybe 20 a game. And then you're finding some spots and say if Woods is getting you 10 to 11 points per game and Kupp is getting you 17, 18 points a game, that's already 6 points there for OBJ for a fantasy perspective. And then you factor in anything Deshaun Jackson did, OBJ is going to come take that. All the injuries the Rams have had. Then if you, -1 to Darrell Henderson's receptions per game, okay, there's 10 points a game for Odell. So I think Kupp is still a wide receiver 1 tier. Woods is like a flex wide receiver 3, and I think Odell for now. I wouldn't start Odell. I would be patient.
Absolutely.
I'd stash him.
If you have
Give
Odell,
me
if
a
you have
second
Odell in
with
fantasy,
Odell.
I wouldn't even stash him. You find
Splash,
one
you
owner
have
in
him
your
in our
fantasy
league.
league. You find one owner in your
Trade him.
fantasy league. If you have Odell Beckham, trust me on this. You trade Odell Beckham in your fantasy leagues right now.
Yeah, I like
Not
that. I like that.
tomorrow.
I like that.
Not on Monday. Do it now because you're going to get more value than I think he'll give you from the position.
Hey, Frankie.
And I agree
Do
with
you want him?
So,
Do you want him in our league?
I don't want him.
People see the name. People see the flash.
I need to see who I have. I might offer you a trade or two.
I've been starting Calvin Ridley every week, thinking the guy's still going to play. The guy's on a beach somewhere in Jacksonville. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So unbelievable. My team.
I feel bad for Calvin.
Yeah,
so one thing I want to do some housekeeping to Daniel.
Guys, I have
the
to
Browns.
piece, though. I have
right.
I have an investor thing for the U, baby. We get this cash soon, boys.
Hey,
Let's go.
hey, use this as an example. We were popping.
There you go. Our chat was going crazy.
Fingers.
Yeah, we were popping. Okay, so Daniel, I want to touch on this. If you're still here, I did not say the